Chapter 1: Snowbound in Candlelight. Cara Sutherland hadn't planned on being anywhere near Candlelight Cove for Christmas, let alone caught in a snowstorm. But as fate would have it, her rental car sputtered to a stop right on the outskirts of the town, the engine giving up just as the first heavy snowflakes began to fall from the darkening sky. With her phone battery dead and the nearest gas station miles away, Cara had no choice but to bundle up and trudge into the heart of Candlelight Cove, a place her best friend had once described as something out of a Hallmark movie. The streets of Candlelight Cove were quaint and aglow with twinkling lights and festive garlands. Snow blanketed the cobblestone paths and frosted the shop windows, transforming the town into a winter wonderland. Cara couldn't help but feel a stir of wonder, despite her predicament. Each breath in the cold air was a sharp reminder of her unexpected adventure. Seeking shelter and perhaps a phone to use, she pushed open the door to the first open establishment she found, a cozy, warmly lit bakery named Nick's Nook. The bell above the door jingled merrily, slicing through the hum of a Christmas carol playing softly in the background. Behind the counter, a man looked up from his work of decorating a gingerbread house. His smile was quick and welcoming. "Hello! What can I bring you on this chilly evening?" he asked, brushing a dusting of powdered sugar from his hands. "Actually, I could use some help," Cara admitted, her teeth chattering just a bit as she approached the counter. "My car broke down, and my phone's dead. Do you happen to have a phone I could use?" "Of course," he replied, his tone as warm as the oven that perfumed the air with the scent of baking cookies. "I'm Nick, by the way." "Thank you, Nick." "I'm Cara," she said, gratefully accepting the cup of hot chocolate he offered her. As Nick dialed up the local mechanic from the landline, Cara took a moment to survey her surroundings. The bakery was a charming chaos of holiday preparations, with trays of cookies, pies, and pastries lined up like little edible soldiers waiting to be dispatched to festive gatherings. "Looks like Terry will be a bit before he can get out here with the snow and all." "You're welcome to wait here, there's plenty of warmth and, when Terry gets here, plenty of cake too," Nick joked, gesturing towards a cake adorned with elaborate frosting snowflakes. As the snow outside piled higher, Cara realized she was not only physically snowbound in Candlelight Cove, but also unexpectedly caught up in the warmth of a town full of holiday spirit and a stranger who baked happiness into every bite. Little did she know, this unplanned detour would lead her to rediscover the joy of Christmas that she thought was long lost. Chapter 2: The Heart of the Town. With her immediate concerns temporarily set aside thanks to Nick's hospitality, Cara allowed herself to relax into the cozy atmosphere of the bakery. As Nick returned to his holiday preparations, she sipped her hot chocolate, feeling the warmth seep into her bones. The snow continued to fall outside, casting a hushed blanket over Candlelight Cove, but inside Nick's Nook, the air was alive with the rich scents of cinnamon and nutmeg. Cara watched as Nick interacted with his customers, each one greeted by name with a warmth that spoke of deep, community ties. It wasn't long before she was drawn into conversations herself. A local teacher shared stories of the town's winter festival, a tradition that brought together the young and old with its parades, music, and the much-anticipated Christmas play. "In Candlelight Cove, we celebrate together," the teacher explained, her eyes twinkling as brightly as the lights strung up around the windows. "There's a genuine spirit here that you won't find in many places. It's like the town itself is a family." As the afternoon waned, Nick invited Cara to join him on a brief tour of the town to kill time before the mechanic could reach them. Bundled up against the cold, they stepped out into the crisp air, the snow crunching under their boots. The streets were lined with buildings that looked like gingerbread houses come to life, each one adorned with decorations that sparkled under the streetlights now flickering to life. Their first stop was the local bookstore, a small, charming place where the shelves were stacked high with books of every conceivable genre. The owner, a kindly old man with spectacles sliding down his nose, introduced Cara to the town's history through old photographs and tales of Candlelight Cove's founding families. Next, they visited the town hall, where a group of volunteers was busy setting up for the holiday market. Handmade crafts, local artworks, and an array of home-cooked foods were being arranged in booths. Cara was struck by the palpable sense of community. Everyone seemed to contribute something, whether it was knitting scarves or baking pies. As they walked, Nick pointed out his favorite spots: the tiny cinema that still showed classic films, the ice skating pond where children and adults alike glided under twinkling fairy lights, and the old-fashioned diner that served the best pie in town. "This place," Nick said, gesturing broadly at the snow-covered landscape, "keeps the heart young and the spirit joyful." Returning to the warmth of Nick's nook as evening approached, Cara felt a shift within her. What was supposed to be a quick, forgettable stop on her journey was blossoming into something memorable. Candlelight Cove, with its enchanting winter charm and welcoming residents, was beginning to feel like more than just a place to pass through. It was becoming a place that might hold a piece of her heart. Chapter 3: Warmth in the Cold. Back in the inviting warmth of Nick's nook, as the snow continued its relentless descent outside, Cara found herself more at ease than she had been in a long time. The bakery was bustling with activity, the locals coming in to escape the cold and enjoy a moment of warmth with a cup of coffee or a slice of Nick's famous cherry pie. Nick invited Cara to help with some of the simpler tasks, like frosting cupcakes and arranging cookies on platters, which she found surprisingly therapeutic. As they worked side by side, Nick shared stories of Candlelight Cove's Christmases past, of how each year the town would come together to decorate the giant spruce in the town square, and how his parents used to run the bakery before him. His tales were peppered with laughter and nostalgia, giving Cara a deeper glimpse into the life he led, so vastly different from her own hectic city routine. During a quiet moment, as they were decorating a batch of gingerbread men, Cara opened up about her own Christmas memories, which were far less fond. She spoke of busy parents who often skipped the holiday celebrations for work trips and of lonely evenings spent with babysitters instead of family. "I guess that's why I've never been much for Christmas," Cara admitted, her voice softening. Nick listened intently, his decorating hand pausing as he considered her words. "It sounds like you've missed out on the magic of it all," he mused. "Maybe this year could be different. Maybe this year, Candlelight Cove could show you what Christmas is really about." That evening, as the bakery finally quieted down and the last customer left with a cheerful jingle of the bell, Nick proposed an impromptu walk through the town's annual Festival of Lights, which had just begun. Despite her initial reluctance, Cara agreed, curious to see more of the festive traditions Nick held so dear. The Festival of Lights was nothing short of magical. Rows of trees along the main street were draped in twinkling lights, their branches heavy with snow, creating a shimmering tunnel of light. Stalls lined the street, offering everything from hot cocoa to hand-knitted scarves. The laughter of children playing in the snow filled the air, blending with the melodies of carol singers stationed at corners. As they walked, Nick stopped at one of the stalls and bought 2 steaming cups of mulled wine, handing one to Cara. "Here's to new experiences and finding warmth in the unexpected," he toasted, his breath forming a cloud in the cold air. Cara smiled, her cheeks flushed from the cold, or perhaps from the company, and clinked her cup against his. As they continued to walk through the festival, surrounded by the joy of the season, Cara felt a warmth spreading through her, one that had little to do with the mulled wine. It was a warmth that came from the growing connection between her and Nick, and from the realization that perhaps this unexpected detour was exactly what she needed this Christmas. Chapter 4: Secrets Under the Mistletoe. The Festival of Lights had left an indelible mark on Cara. As she walked back to Nick's nook with him, the glittering lights of the festival still twinkling in her mind, she felt a stirring of something long dormant, holiday spirit, perhaps, or maybe just the joy of being part of something as heartfelt as Candlelight Cove celebrations. Over the next few days, Cara became a fixture at Nick's nook, not just as a stranded traveler, but as someone who genuinely wanted to contribute. She helped with holiday orders, tied ribbons on packaging, and even learned to operate the ancient espresso machine. Her laughter mingled with the regulars' chatter, and she felt herself woven into the fabric of the town with each passing day. One snowy evening, as they were closing up the bakery, Nick invited Cara to the town's annual mistletoe ball, a cherished tradition held at the community center. "It's nothing fancy," he explained, "just everyone getting together, dancing, having a good time. I think you'd enjoy it." Cara accepted, touched by the invitation and curious to experience yet another of the town's traditions. As they prepared for the evening, Nick seemed unusually quiet. Cara noticed his pensiveness, an undercurrent of something more beneath his calm exterior. At the ball, under strings of fairy lights and mistletoe hung from the rafters, the townspeople gathered, embracing the festive mood with music and laughter. Cara was swept up in the warmth and friendliness of it all, her earlier reservations about Christmas melting away like snow in the sun. During a slow dance, as Nick led her gracefully across the floor, Cara felt close enough to ask about his mood earlier. "You seemed a bit distant today. Is everything okay?" Nick hesitated, his eyes searching hers in the dim light. "I wasn't sure whether to tell you this," he began, his voice low. "But I think you should know, this bakery, these traditions, they might not be around much longer." Cara blinked, taken aback. "What do you mean?" "The bakery is struggling," Nick confessed. "It's been tough, especially these past few years. My parents left it to me, and I've tried to keep it going, but I'm not sure how much longer I can do it." The revelation hung between them, heavy like the garlands of mistletoe overhead. Cara felt a pang of sadness, realizing how much the bakery, and Nick, had come to mean to her in such a short time. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" she asked gently. "I didn't want to burden you," Nick replied. "Especially since you've found some joy here. I didn't want to spoil that." Cara reached out, her hand finding his. "Nick, these past few days have been some of the happiest I've had in a long time," she said sincerely. "You, this town, the traditions, it's all been a wonderful surprise. Let's figure this out together." As the music swelled around them and couples danced under the softly lit mistletoe, Cara and Nick shared a promise, unspoken but understood. They would face the future of the bakery together, whatever it might bring, finding strength in their newfound bond. Chapter 5: The Magic of Candlelight Cove. The revelation of the bakery's struggles cast a new light on everything Cara had experienced in Candlelight Cove. Yet, it also deepened her resolve to help Nick and to immerse herself even more fully in the town's festive traditions. In the days that followed, she found herself brainstorming ways to attract more customers and improve the bakery's financial health. Cara proposed a series of themed nights at Nick's Nook leading up to Christmas. "How about a cookie decorating workshop, or a story night for kids, where we can read Christmas classics and serve hot cocoa?" she suggested enthusiastically. Nick was touched by Cara's ideas and energy. "You really think it could work?" he asked, a hopeful note in his voice. "I know it can," Cara replied confidently. "Let's bring a little extra magic to Candlelight Cove this Christmas." They launched the events with a poster campaign and announcements on local social media groups. To their delight, the response was overwhelmingly positive. The first event, a cookie decorating workshop, was a sellout, filling the bakery with families eager to learn from Nick, while Cara read stories to an enraptured crowd of children. As Christmas Eve approached, the town square was abuzz with excitement for the annual Christmas play. This year, Candlelight Cove's community had decided on a rendition of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, with a local twist. Cara and Nick were both involved, helping with the sets and costumes. During the final rehearsal, as Cara adjusted a prop by the stage, she overheard the mayor speaking to a group of town council members. "It's truly been a spectacular December," the mayor was saying. "And have you seen what's been happening at Nick's Nook? They've brought so much joy and business into our town." Hearing this, Cara felt a surge of pride. She glanced over at Nick, who was helping one of the young actors with his costume, and felt her heart swell. The magic of Candlelight Cove wasn't just in its traditions, but in its people, who came together to support each other. That evening, under a sky filled with stars, the town gathered for the Christmas play. The square was lit by hundreds of candles, casting a warm glow over the faces of the audience. As the play unfolded, Cara stood next to Nick, their hands finding each other's in the crowd. When Scrooge finally learned his lesson about the spirit of Christmas, the crowd erupted in applause, their faces alight with joy and the magic of the season. At that moment, Cara realized that her own understanding of Christmas had transformed just as profoundly. After the play, as they walked back to Nick's nook, Nick stopped under a particularly bright string of fairy lights. "You've made this Christmas special, Cara," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Not just for me, but for the whole town." Cara looked up at him, her eyes shining. "It was all of us together," she replied. "But we're not done yet. We have tonight to celebrate, and who knows? Maybe there's even more magic to come tomorrow." And as they stood there, in the heart of the town that had embraced her so warmly, Cara felt the truth of her own words. Candlelight Cove had worked its charm, weaving a spell of community and joy that she never wanted to break. Chapter 6: A New Year's Promise. As the final hours of Christmas Day wound down, the festive cheer in Candlelight Cove showed no signs of abating. The town still buzzed with the spirit of the season, and at Nick's nook, the warmth from the hearth and the glow of fairy lights created a cozy haven against the cold December night. Cara and Nick, now more partners than mere acquaintances, found themselves reflecting on the whirlwind of events that had brought them so close. "You've really turned this place around, Cara," Nick said as they tidied up the bakery after a long day. The success of their holiday events had breathed new life into the business, sparking hope for its future. Cara smiled, wiping down the counter. "We turned it around together, Nick. It's your heart that's in this place. I just added a little extra sparkle." With the new year approaching, they both knew there were decisions to be made. Cara's original plans had been wildly detoured, and now, with the bakery on steadier footing, she faced a choice about returning to her city life or embracing the unexpected path that had unfolded before her in Candlelight Cove. On New Year's Eve, the town held a celebration in the square, complete with a bonfire and fireworks. As the residents of Candlelight Cove gathered to bid farewell to the old year and usher in the new, Cara and Nick joined them, standing side by side against the crisp night air. When the clock neared midnight, Nick turned to Cara, taking her hands in his. "Cara, these past few weeks have shown me so much, about courage, about joy, and about how sometimes the best things in life are the most unexpected," he began, his eyes earnest. "I don't want this to end at midnight. Stay in Candlelight Cove, stay with me." Cara looked into Nick's hopeful eyes, feeling the sincerity of his words resonate deep within her. The choice that had once seemed so complicated now felt surprisingly simple. "I came here by accident, a detour I never planned. But now, I can't imagine being anywhere else." "Yes, Nick, I'll stay." As the crowd counted down the final seconds to the new year, the sky burst into colors with the fireworks display, illuminating the faces of the townspeople. Cheers and laughter filled the air, blending with the sounds of celebration. Cara and Nick, their hands still clasped, watched the sparks fly, each burst a symbol of the new beginnings and promises that lay ahead. They knew there would be challenges, but as the new year rang in, they were ready to face them together, with the strength of their love and the community that had brought them together. And so, under the starlit sky of Candlelight Cove, as they shared a kiss amidst the cheering crowd, a new chapter began, not just for the year but for their lives. It was a promise of tomorrow, filled with love, hope, and the magic that only a place like Candlelight Cove could weave.